See, the way we look at AI is in the industrial revolution. Before that, you had manual machines doing the work, and then you had industrialization, and you had power machines, power tools, which could do it 10 times faster. And that's the similar example here. That's what we see with AI. It's a tool. At the end of the day, it's a tool.
It's quite rare these days to encounter an executive who has dedicated 29 years to the same company. Our next guest, Sridhar Iyengar, exemplifies this commitment. Sridhar joined Indian software company Zoho Corporation at its inception back in 1996 in the middle of the dotcom boom. He now serves as the managing director of the European region. Zoho is a remarkable company with a global customer base known for seamless integration between business applications. They were a very early proponent of integrating generative AI capability into their products and are one of the few global competitors in the CRM space to the juggernauts like Google and HubSpot. In our conversation, we explore the parallels between the dot-com boom of the 90s to the AI era that we're currently in now. We delve into the cultural differences between Europe and India. We discuss how Zoho innovates and integrates new products into their product suite. And we also examine the future role of AI in shaping their product evolution and the marketplace generally. This was a really interesting conversation. It's Sridhar Iyengar. Sridhar, how are you? Thanks for coming on the Tech Leaders podcast. I've been so excited to talk to you.
Hi, Gareth. It's lovely to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Let's start the way we always do, Sridhar. What does good leadership mean to you?
So there are a few things to leadership, right? So typically people confuse leadership with management. So leadership in essence is, you basically have a sense of direction for your team, for your company, and so on.
Yeah.
Provide clarity and direction and enabling your team members, empowering them, enabling them, removing the obstacles that they may face along their journey to meet that objective, that shared objective, shared goal.
Yeah, sure.
And that's what good leadership is. It's about enabling and having that multiplier effect on your team.
Absolutely. I think I think you summed it up perfectly there, Sridhar. I think it's about being clear about what the goal is. What are we all working towards collectively?
Right.
And then leading the way to get to that target. It sounds very simple, doesn't it? But so many people get it wrong. For the guests who are not familiar with Zoho, or maybe yourself, can you give us a little bit of an introduction to yourself from the point of sort of leaving education right up to where we are now?
So I'm Sridhar Iyengar. I am part of Zoho, have been part of the company since inception. That's 28 years and counting. So we started off in 1996. I'm an engineer by, both qualification and engineer at heart.
Yeah.
With a lot of passion for technology back in the early years, as when I grew up, I could see how software was transforming the world. Computer science was transforming the world. And I wanted to be part of it. As a company, we built SaaS business application that can power any business, any enterprise. In terms of being part of that digital transformation, that's been my ambition from childhood, being part of the software industry that can change the world. That's what I like doing. I've built products in the past, but also played roles in different areas, product management, engineering, marketing, and so on. Right now, I'm responsible for our business in Europe, and I'm based here in the Netherlands for that.
Fantastic. Okay. I would like to ask you to zoom in to 1996, Sridhar. Okay. Can you give us the specific story behind Zoho? Where did it come from? Why did you call it Zoho? Okay. And why did it happen?
That brings back a lot of old fond memories. So 1996. So here's the setting. The time was 1996. And you're talking about this in the backdrop of two locations. One in the US, where our CEO was based. And the second was in India, where some of the other co-founders were based. So the company started almost in parallel in India and in the US with a vision to really build a software powerhouse that could improve productivity in terms of enabling businesses to reach their maximum potential
Sure.
but also to build a company that operates in a very different way, meaning it's not necessarily profits and just business for the sake of business at all costs.
Yeah.
One of the fundamental tenets was we would be bootstrapped, which was very unique for a company at that time.
Yeah.
And this was also, pre dotcom bubble and pre VC boom, as you may know.
You were called something else then, though, I take it. Yeah. You were is it AdventNet you were called then?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we were called AdventNet back then, and the vision was, not to compete with the likes of the giants like Google and Microsoft. The vision was to build great software, put it in the hands of people, and back then we didn't even have cloud, so this was downloadable software, and it's evolved over time into cloud software, and build out products so that people would start using it. That was really the vision.
Absolutely. Okay. So from the early days, let's say from 96 up until 2011, what were the sort of main milestones that sort of set you on the path you ultimately ended up pursuing? What was the biggest moment in that early period of AdventNet?
So we started out with building out a software suite, which was in a completely different domain. We started off by building software for telecom networks, basically, in the telecom area. And from there on, so we had large telecom providers, vendors, equipment manufacturers who would use our software in their telecom equipments. And then from there on, diversified into enterprise IT management. That was the second line of business. It's still profitable. It's still an operating business division that's doing really well called Manage Engine. And then along the way, we've been a curious company. So always with our, ears and eyes on what's coming up. And you could see, trends like cloud computing, software as services, open source, all this come up. And it made us think, the era of download software could be disrupted by the advent of cloud. And, we have to get into that. And you never know how it's going to turn out until you get into the game and play the game. And so you have to be part of it and see how it pans out. So everything that we do at Zoho starts off as small experiments. And so did our cloud journey. We started off building, having small teams that would go and learn how to build a CRM system, for example, or word processor, something as fundamental and basic as that. It might be fundamental from a usage standpoint. However, the engineering and the tech that goes into it is quite complex in terms of building up your entire cloud stack from the ground up. And this was done by a set of individuals who had never built that. We've always prided ourselves on building everything versus, there's the buy versus build mentality. We build. We are engineers. We build everything, including the data center, including the every part of the tech stack from the database right to the UI and AI and everything. And that's a great learning. That's a great adventure and experience in its own. And we could see, the cloud coming up, and we started building up business applications, and that could be delivered as software as service. And that was the start of the Zoho Cloud division and the cloud journey.
Adopting a SaaS model, obviously, which came out of the cloud, the shift to the cloud, that sounds like it was the big moment for Zoho then in terms of growth and product innovation. It obviously changed everything for you guys, didn't it, by the looks of it? Let me just quickly ask you, though, Sridhar, before we talk about that, and obviously the challenges that came with that growth. The late 90s, early 2000s, you alluded to the dot-com boom there. Maybe some listeners may not be familiar with that, but or they probably would have heard of it. But I'm just curious to know, that was a very exciting time, okay, in technology and IT. And a lot of people have said there's a lot of parallels from that time to right now in terms of the excitement and buzz around AI and AI capability, what's your take on that? Do you see parallels? Do you think there's similarities?
I think so. And I think while the dot-com bubble was the first tech bubble has always been the bubble. So if you go back to the gold rush in the old California days, it's similar. So whenever there's huge opportunities, the first thing that it attracts is huge amount of capital and venture capital as well. And then everybody tries to get into that thinking there's a huge payday waiting. However, the reality takes time to set in, and that means that that opportunity is limited, and only certain companies can
Will benefit from it. Yeah.
will benefit from
Yeah,
it.
sure.
And that's the same we see in AI as well. So every other company is doing something in AI. So there is a lot of hype around AI. But there is value, but there is also a lot of hype.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there'll be losers and winners. But the problem is there'll be more losers than winners, won't it? There always are. And it's the famous story about pets.com, wasn't it? And but obviously out of all that carnage of the bubble bursting in 2001 or whatever it was, became Amazon.com. And that was obviously one of the most successful companies ever. So talk us about the early years of growth then. You obviously rebranded to Zoho. You moved your, business model to a SaaS model and obviously moved over to the cloud. Talk us through those early years of growth, Sridhar. What was that like? What was it like to be part of that? And what did you learn from that accelerated growth from sort of 2011 onwards?
Right. While the markets that we served changed from telecom to, let's say, the enterprise IT to the cloud, to basically the business and the enterprise using cloud software.
Yeah.
Some of the fundamentals of our business have stayed the same. Fundamentals as in the business model is build great software, sell great software, flow that money back into R&D, and then that cycle continues, right?
Sure.
So the differentiator is a product and technology-led software offering and not necessarily a sales and marketing-led. So that's been one of the fundamentals. The second is about data privacy protection, right? So in 2018, GDPR came into effect. So that made data protection, data privacy to be very fancy, very a must-have for regulatory, companies. But then that's always been something fundamental to us, since '96. So we've always believed customer owns their data, so we will never monetize that.
Yeah.
The third is, of course, to invest in people and building up teams. So some of the software that you see built in, for the cloud infrastructure was done by people who built the same kind of products for the telecom market.
Yeah.
It's the same people who learned new stuff and built it for a new market. So that's a lot of excitement, opportunity in that as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. I know your background is engineering, but you've obviously been very close to product development through your career, of course. What was the biggest step forward, do you think, Sridhar, for Zoho from a product standpoint?
See, I think one of the things we've done is to build a platform that can scale up to serve our needs for the present and the future. And when I say platform on which you can build up and roll out new products quickly. That's why you see half a dozen products being rolled out every other year. And that's the innovation that customers see coming from us, right?
Yeah.
And basically, if you look at the goal is to cover all aspects of a business or an organization, be it, if you look at departments in a company, in an organization, you would have sales team, marketing team, legal, HR, and all. Build software that can enable productivity, can enable digital capabilities for all these different teams. And that was the vision, to build it end-to-end, provide a very broad offering. And a lot of that culminated in this package called Zoho One, which we launched in 2017.
Yeah.
Which was basically one platform to power your entire digital business.
Yeah, sure.
And that was very compelling for our customers.
Yeah, of course. And that's what businesses want, isn't it? They want convenience and they want simplicity. You don't want to be using a different piece of software for every single business function. You want it all to be in one place, don't you? So obviously you were involved in the global business, or you were based in India for a lot of your career. Is that correct, Sridhar? Yeah. What would you say is the biggest?
That's absolutely right.
What's the biggest difference then? And this is a very big, broad question, but in terms of on a macro level, what's the biggest difference between the European market and the Indian market? But in terms of software consumption, what's the biggest difference?
Oh, wow. That's a big one. Well, first thing is there's a huge cultural shift.
Yeah.
Right, in terms of how one sees software. And I would say there are differences on both sides. Of course, there are market. I mean, one thing, when I was in India, you tend to view Europe as one market, right?
Yeah.
And when you arrive here, you realize Europe is not one market. It's probably 20 different markets. How, the UK operates is very different from how Germany operates, from how Spain operates. There are language nuances. There's also rate of adoption that varies per country, and you just have to adjust to the pace of the market and stay steady, stay with your customers, stay with your partners, and keep working with them, serving them, and
Yeah,
that's really the key to success.
of
And
course.
so, differences wise, there are differences. uh, India had the benefit of no legacy technology or very little legacy technology, so which means that you can leapfrog to the cloud very easily.
Yeah.
But in a developed market, you always have legacy. You have to deal with that. So how do you transition from an old gen technology to a new gen technology? You always have to think of those consequences as well.
Yeah, no, I didn't think of that. That's absolutely that makes total sense. I think another big difference, I suppose, Sridhar, correct me if I'm wrong, is the demographic as well. I think India has a very strong young generation coming through. I think Europe
Absolutely.
has a much older population, considerably older. That is the one very exciting thing about India, I suppose. But I think population wise, I think it's pretty similar, isn't it? It's not too much of a difference between Europe and India. Can I ask you then? I don't really understand who resembles your competitor more. Is it Google because they've got this ubiquitous all-in-one platform for software, or are you more sort of competing with HubSpot, who are more in the CRM world? I know you compete with both, but who would you regard as your
Right.
true natural competitor out of those two, and or anyone else?
Right. That's a great question, Garrett. I get asked that question, or rather, we at Zoho get asked that question quite a lot. And the answer to that is it depends. So it depends on what area. Typically, someone would ask us, who do you compete with? But in what segment? Are
Sure.
you talking about the collaboration and communication category? Are you talking about the Salesforce automation category? Are you talking about the marketing automation category? So if you look at, we are present in different categories of software products, right? Software
Yeah,
verticals. And in every different product category, we built a strong offering that competes with the best of best out there.
of
So
course.
that's one level of competition. Then there are other very few companies, and you can count them on one hand, where they cover the similar kind of a breadth that we do, but there are just very few. So on that scale, we are very unique in terms of the not just the depth of offering in each category, but also the breadth. Because traditionally we've taught, and this is what we've learned, that you have to use finance software for finance and all that. So people tend to think and operate in silos. And when
Yeah,
you look at look at it from an organization standpoint, they all have to work together. So only if your software enables this interaction and collaboration will your people also work together. And that's the view we've taken. The software has
yeah,
to work well together for your teams to work together.
absolutely. So integration is at the core of all of your product
Absolutely. It's weaved
conversations.
in, it's basically by design.
And I want to ask you about AI. How do you think that AI will change Zoho over the next couple of years in terms of the way you operate and in terms of the way that you function as a business on an operational level?
I think it's like deja vu, right? It's like the SaaS moment.
Yeah, yeah,
in So there's this new technology that's coming up. It has the power to transform the industry, and probably much more broader in this case of AI, because it goes beyond software, right? It can touch upon every other industry. So what we're seeing here is it can transform the industry, because AI by itself doesn't mean much, but what it can enable industries and companies to do is phenomenal. So
yeah,
let's look at, for example, and that's been possible because of recent developments in semiconductor chip industry, right?
sure,
So the ability to process so much data is what has accelerated, uh, you know, AI software. So look at GPT-4, for example. The amount of data it's able to process, amount of things, the kind of things that can enable to do, right? So if you look at how can it transform Zoho, it can actually, we're looking at a lot of these AI technologies, see how we can bring it into the products to benefit customers. And that means that you can automate some things, you can actually make your customers more productive, you can provide suggestions. So let me take a few examples. When it comes to customer support, you can provide some suggestions and recommendations on what an appropriate response can be. Similarly, you can have some level of prediction on what's the best time to contact customers. In terms of content creation, you can actually edit, provide some, how to write a better content when it comes to a document or an article and so on. And similar kind of automation, similar type of suggestion can be done in various of our products, different products of ours. And then, of course, the software development itself can be hugely transformed using AI, right?
Yeah, of course.
In terms of generative AI, right? So it can help you write software in a very efficient way, very quickly as well.
Yeah.
Be able to test it quickly as well. And that means that you can churn out capabilities very quickly. You can become a very agile, very responsive company to your customer needs.
Yeah, I think that's the big one, Sridhar, isn't it? It's the ability to cover more ground and, like, I suppose, top performing programmers or whatever, or sales people or whatever it is, will be able to do more than what they could do previously. But I think it's the ones who are able to work in accordance or in tandem with the tools. That's the bit that's going to really accelerate some people more than others. I interviewed a guy from the Netherlands, Roger Verkoven, brilliant guest. He works for OpenAI. He's based in Amsterdam. And his LinkedIn profile, I always think of this, it sums it up. His LinkedIn heading is, "You won't be replaced by AI, you will be replaced by somebody using AI." And I think that's absolutely true, isn't it? I think that people who utilize these incredible generative tools will have such an advantage, This episode was brought to you by Be Digital. Be Digital support leadership teams to optimize cost and get more out of technology investments. Be Digital and the team have unrivaled expertise with technology license management and data remediation and are therefore perfectly positioned to help prepare organizations for AI technology capability. And on the last point, Be Digital have just developed a cutting-edge AI readiness assessment, which provides tech leaders with a platform they need to make well-informed decisions about AI adoption strategy in 2024 and beyond. Go to bedigitaluk.com to find out more and get in touch. So what are you guys doing to ensure that your employees utilize tools for a better outcome for the business? Is that something you're consciously trying to improve right now?
See, the way we look at AI is basically in the industrial revolution. Before that, you had manual machines doing the work, and then you had industrialization, and you had power machines, power tools, which could do it 10 times faster. And that's the similar example here. That's what we see with AI. It's a tool. At the end of the day, it's a tool that can enable you to do things faster, maybe more accurate. And you can compile information across industries, across the world to crunch the data in a very short time. So that's how we see AI. For us, AI is a means to an end. Our vision of making our customers, these organizations, much more productive, still the fundamental goal. And we would use AI to basically accelerate that. So wherever we would use AI in specific contexts to solve problems, which means if you're using a customer experience platform, how can AI basically make our customers become more productive, more efficient, and use AI in that context? So AI is an enabler for us and our software as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, staying with the theme on a sort of more macro sort of societal level, though, I mean, there's a lot of scaremongering out there with people saying that AI is going to displace, jobs displacement is going to be millions of people out of work. And it's not like before. It's not like the Industrial Revolution where new jobs get created. This is different. Well, what's your thoughts on that, Sridhar? How do you think this is going to play out over the next 5 to 10 years?
I do think that new jobs will get created. And if you've seen Industrial Revolution create new jobs like machine operators, you will need AI operators in the future where you need people to, you will still need the human ingenuity, human judgment to kind of do the final check, to take decisions. That will never go away. And AI will remain as tools, power tools, to enable people to take the right decision. Instead of taking a lot of time, instead of doing things manually, they just have a better way of doing it. There is a truth there. There may be fewer jobs. I mean, there'll be some jobs which will be automated,
Yeah.
and then, but there'll also be creation of new opportunities, new jobs, maybe higher skill, different types of job which uses AI to do certain things in a very creative and innovative way.
Yeah, I saw a clip the other day. The CEO of Nvidia, I think he said it maybe last at the end of last year or earlier this year, about how software engineering, there was going to be far less demand for software engineers because everyone's going to be a software engineer through no code platforms and dragging and dropping code and creating applications in a very simple way. Do you see it like that, or do you still think software engineering has got a big future?
The question is, for example, traditionally, you would say that only certain companies fall under the category of being a technology company. Now, what would you call a transportation company like Tesla? Would you call that a technology company? Would you call that a car company? That's the question, right? So
Sure.
the definition of what we call software and what we call technology is changing. Technology becomes so pervasive, and so has AI, that every business, every company will be AI enabled without them even knowing it. And they would employ these, call it AI operators or users, who would be using these technologies as commonly as you use a computer today.
Yeah, that's a really good answer.
That's a transformative power. This can go much deeper and much far than what we've seen.
Yeah, 100%. No, I completely agree. I think our perception of certain vocations will change as well. Not so much, not in every case the vocation themselves, I suppose. But no, that's really interesting. What are you most excited about, Sridhar, about in terms of this boom in generative AI? What do you think is going to be the most positive change we see over the next couple of years?
There's always this debate about how fast do things evolve, right? From a point of view of technology rollout, meaning technology development is one thing, but how fast or how quickly does it get into the hands of the people? So we're talking about productivity enhancement and citizen services. If I have to do something, if I have to order a service from a government portal, how quickly can I get those citizen services? Things like that, right? So in a futuristic world, all that is within the power of your mobile. In a lot of countries, you already see that, but that's where things are heading, right? In terms of being able to access and get things done very quickly, very efficiently, without doing a lot of running around. And that's definitely exciting. Getting that into the hands of people in their day-to-day use.
Yeah, that's the challenging part. And that's the real battle. It's like the technology is there, really, isn't it? To do to do incredible things, to increase productivity, to do incredible things generally across so many areas. But the manifestation of that technology innovation has to be real for people to use and benefit from it, doesn't it? If you have to be a Java developer to benefit from certain things, then obviously the man in the street's not going to be able to ever realize that technological capability. So, and that's a good lead on to what I wanted to ask you about, really, Sridhar. So how much is the AI? I'm sure it's already developed your product, but what's next? How do you see AI impacting your product suite over the coming years?
So our investment, our journey in the realms of the AI is almost a decade old now, which means we have tinkered around with it. We have AI labs that's working on these cutting edge technology. And constantly we have our product management team working with these different technology teams in the realms of AI to see how it can be brought into the product, into the platform, to automate a lot of these capabilities, enhance customer experience, provide instantaneous, accurate information and data when they need it in the right context, but also being very conscious about the data privacy angle to it, right? Because we're very cautious not to use customer data for any of our, data learning or model training, for example. So you have to use it in the right way, in a very balanced way, to make sure that you respect these boundaries that you hold sacred with your customers, but then bringing these capability into our products is something that we are constantly working on. For example, video conferencing software that we have, the audio conferencing, the collaborative working of how you could collaborate with teams across the world. There are some AI angles to that can enhance that. And of course, I talked about customer experience, world of finance, because we have a very strong finance suite of products. And we're seeing digital finance, digital payments is really there's a lot of innovation happening in that space as well. And that's also an area where AI can play a role. So, but apart from Zoho, there's also, when I look at the future, AI can play a huge role in healthcare as well. So you can talk about all the wonderful technologies, but at the end of the day, if we can't use AI to save ourselves or get rid of certain disease or find solutions to that, I think that's a wasted opportunity. And that's one big opportunity that I personally would like AI to solve.
Okay. Well, look, I know obviously we're coming towards the end now, Sridhar. So I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about yourself. So I'm keen to understand, how do you achieve balance in your life? How do you manage to stay productive, organized, and on top of your game?
Spending time with family. There's also when I say family, it's not just family here in the Netherlands, but also back in India.
Sure.
But also the friends and family. I would say that's definitely a source of strength, and you basically where you get your energy from. And then of course I'm in the Netherlands, and in the Netherlands the most famous sport here is cycling.
Oh, okay.
Cycle lanes built across the country, and it's really amazing, and it's exhilarating to go on long biking trips. And that's
Yeah, cycling is a very popular pastime in the Netherlands, isn't it? So you're probably in the right place there.
Absolutely. And Utrecht is the number one cycling city in the world. I just learned that a few years back.
So as you may be aware, we are big readers here on the Tech Leaders podcast. And we always ask our guest for a book recommendation, and this is no exception. What book or piece of content have you been inspired by recently?
There's a book called The Culture Map that basically, see, if you look at it, I'm in Europe now, right? So moving from India to Europe, it basically, it's been you have to adjust to different culture, because every culture thinks and works differently. What I've understood, for example, and cultures vary even within Europe. Northern Europe is very different from Southern Europe, Eastern Europe. Dutch culture is very direct, so you have to know how to.
I've been tripped up by that before now. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is culture map. But is that Erin Meyer? Yeah,
correct. Erin Meyer culture map.
Yeah,
it's basically trying to understand how cultures think and operate. And oftentimes, when you have an understanding of the culture, then it basically helps you understand people as well. Yes. And when you understand people, then it basically helps the collaboration become much more easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Is this book written sort of in a business context, or is it just a very general?
It is a general purpose. It is a general person.
I find that absolutely fascinating. I'm actually going to get that book. Hopefully it's available on Audible, because I normally listen to books these days. I got 2 kids, so I haven't got time to sit there and read a book very often. But yeah, I'm sure it is on Audible. And but we will put that on the show notes, Sridhar. That's a brilliant recommendation, The Culture Map. Brilliant. Well, look, Sridhar, it's been a fantastic conversation. I've really enjoyed it. We've covered lots and lots of ground. Thank you so much for coming on the Tech Leaders podcast.
Thank you for having me here, Gareth. It was absolutely fantastic being here.
That was a really interesting conversation. There was lots of gems in there that I could potentially draw attention to. I particularly liked him talking about the cultural challenges, the difference between India and Europe. That was fascinating. AI innovation and how the education of the user being a big part of AI adoption. I thought that was something that people don't talk about that much, but I think that's something that's certainly a huge factor in sort of pervasive or ubiquitous AI. So that was fascinating. But I think the bit about the evolution of the software engineering vocation, I thought that was fascinating. Sridhar is an engineer by trade, and I thought he offered some brilliant perspective on this. I think software engineers are still perceived as people who create code. as, one time Tesla were perceived as a company who made cars. Well, that's kind of changed. Tesla really are perceived more and more as a technology company as opposed to a car company. And maybe software engineers will be perceived more with different things other than just writing code, i.e. the outcome of applications. So I think, AI will change software engineering, obviously, but it also changed perception of software engineering. This was all in response to the comments made by the CEO of NVIDIA, of course, and who sort of essentially said that software engineering will become obsolete or will certainly shrink or not grow as a vocation as much as we thought it would. So I thought Sridhar offered some really good opinions and points on that topic, which were very thought-provoking. So yeah, it was a fascinating conversation. I could draw attention to many other great points that Sridhar made. He's very understated and subtle in his opinions sometimes, and you have to just sort of zoom in on things. But yeah, hopefully you took as much value out of it as I did. Thank you so much for listening. Please give us a like, give us a subscribe, leave a review if you want. Every little helps. Thank you so much for listening. This episode was brought to you by Be Digital. Be Digital support leadership teams to optimize cost and get more out of technology investments. Be Digital and the team have unrivaled expertise with technology license management and data remediation, and are therefore perfectly positioned to help prepare organizations for AI technology capability. And on the last point, Be Digital have just developed a cutting-edge AI readiness assessment, which provides tech leaders with a platform they need to make well-informed decisions about AI adoption strategy in 2024 and beyond. Go to Be Digital UK to find out more and get in touch.